I have a professor who he's completely everything. I mean, this what you have with the wording.
I've never had that happen. It's the only thing that's close is when my son was in Hanford. Him and his family were over at my house visiting. And when they got home, their garage had burnt completely to the ground. And some kids had been smoking in the alley and got it. And they had taken all the keepsake stuff, and the kids were little, and Christmas stuff and everything. But everything in the garage was they were cleaning up this room, so they gutted all the stuff. Everything was gone. Even the car that was left there had melted spots on it.
You know, one time I went, I mean, I've seen God, like work in many ways. I mean, I've seen it time after time. This time I went to a yard sale, right? And I had some stuff piled up, and this guy shows up. And I mean, I had like a little pile. He goes, "This is all stuff, this is mine." And he grabbed it, right?
ahora.
Ah, es verdad.
Yep.
Que so for the what 15th time or
I'm getting close to getting a discount coffee at
are
McDonald's.
we? So are the ones that are going to give a report online? See, Sheila is first. Okay. Are any from the public trying to? I see Veronica.
We're online, we have Veronica, Agiri, and then we have Katie, and there's our regulars who show up to watch.
Okay.
And no one on Facebook land.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right. So it is after 5. I see 5:07. So we'll continue with a budget review. And okay, so number 2, it is departmental presentations, general fund. 2A is Ms. Sheila Verdugo, community activity supervisor. Fund 10, 8,000. And that's on
Can you guys hear me?
36.
You're a little muffled, Sheila.
I'm on the phone. I couldn't log in on the computer, so I'm gonna do my best.
That's
Okay.
much better.
37.
Okay.
30.
I'm just getting closer and closer to the phone. Okay, so can I start? Or do you want to wait?
You go ahead, Sheila. You're on the agenda
Okay.
first.
Okay, so I'm going to go down. I'm going to skip 501 through 512. That's really not anything that I mess with, but I'm going to hit 517, which is the uniform maintenance. And we, all departments share in this. So that's just really the janitors' uniforms and things like that. So we all share the cost of the janitor, and that line item there is our department's cost, or our contribution anyway. 601 is office supplies. Basically, we buy supplies for 2 offices, which is Anna's and myself. Basically, anything you could think of, certificate holders, specialty paper, markers, pens, those kind of things. It's pretty self-explanatory. So that would be 601. 605 is our computer supplies. Basically, what I do here is on the norm, anybody who knows technology and knows me, we're not friends. So that is for any kind of replacement, keyboard parts, the mouse, the keyboards, the shredders, extension cords, surge protectors, that kind of thing would come out of the computer supplies. 606 is cleaning supplies. That's really self-explanatory. We have the Vets Hall. We have the Recreation Center, the Scout House when it's in use. All these supplies touch on all the buildings. So we just keep all the buildings stocked within this account, our line item. 629 is landscaping materials. On the norm, I keep some money in there just for like if we have any specialty thing that we need to do out of the complex. I know that basically the Public Works takes care of that facility, but if we have something going on that's a specialty outside of what they do, we try to pitch in the best we can to get the complex up and running for our events. 655 is professional services. Basically, that is just the upkeep and maintenance on our AC units on all facilities and buildings, pest control, special entertainment in the community, laminator and large printer, the electrician, plumber, internet service, those kind of things would come out of professional services. 656 is the telephone. That's basically a Dawn item. Well, it's a building item, but basically we have lines in the Veterans Hall, the Recreation Center.
Eva.
I'm not positive.
Mrs.
Yes.
Williams has a question.
Yes.
Under professional services, if what all that stuff you talked about is what you use that for, why is white completely out?
I'm sorry. What I talked about when I try to do my budget on that fancy online thing, I took everything out of that thinking that was the pool where we pull all the pool money out of, and so I actually deleted all of that. And I just talked to Dawn and Mel today, and that was a mistake on my part. We still normally keep $15,000 in that, but I don't think we even used that much last year, honestly. So we could even deplete that a little bit more this year, but on the norm, we keep our professional services for all of these items in that particular account. And my mistake when I did the budget online and we were asked to, kind of downsize, I think I depleted that whole line, and that was a mistake. I need to have money in that particular account for these things that I just discussed. So we'll have to fix that at some point. Did that make sense?
What?
Hello?
Yes?
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. Okay. Any other questions, Ms. Louise?
Any other questions? No, go ahead, proceed.
Oh, okay. So 657 is just the billing and postage. Basically, that's just stamps and different mailings that we do. If we have any special mailings that we need to send out and have it certified, that's where all that would come out of. The 661, the conference and training, we don't really keep much in there because we don't do a lot of conference and trainings. We do a lot of contact via our involvement in the meetings and the committees and the organizations through the county. It actually helps us much better than going to these big conferences where we're spending a lot of money. So we don't really keep much in there. And that's just because, like I said, we don't go to anything really large. We stay local where we can get the best resources for ourselves. 665, of course, that's self-explanatory. That's just the gas and electricity for all of the facilities that we run. 668 is other maintenance and repair. Basically, what this account is set up for is to inspect and repair any of the following things that I'm going to discuss, which is the ducts, the HVAC ducts, and the AC units. If anything goes down in those units, we have money for the people to come out and fix them. And then this is where if anything needed to be repaired, if we needed the filters or different things like that, the lighting, drains, gutters, winterizing, all the buildings, the weather stripping, that kind of thing, all the money would come out, or the products or the supplies that we would need would come out of this account. Let's see, the 669 is just rental, leases, equipment. So basically when we need our light towers, if we needed anything to do the floor maintenance, we actually borrowed this summer from the school, but if we ever had to rent like the buffers and the strippers and those kind of things for the floors, this is where that would come out of. Man lift, if our man lift goes down, we basically would come to our budget and we would find the money within this line item to get like the banners, the flags, and those kind of things up if something does happen with our man lift, which has definitely happened in the past. 672 is membership. So basically just the Recreation Commission. I also am a member of Creek Cuts. We have a Creek Cuts or whatever machine. And so we have to do a membership for that to get some of the free things to do the projects on. But basically it's Rec Commission for the membership for the Rec Commission. The 673 is other miscellaneous. So I keep this as any unforeseen problems with any of our equipment, our doors, our windows, our stalls, our toilets. We've had things happen in the past where we had to replace a toilet or we've had to replace a stall door. I kind of keep that there so that we can do the unforeseen things. Like things break down. It's natural. It's going to happen. Our buildings are older, so we have to be prepared for any of that. 674, of course, that's self-explanatory. It's water and utilities. 690 is our program account. So everything that we do throughout the year, down to community events, down to programs, down to classes that we may offer, all of that, anything that we need for those activities would come out of this account. Then we have like the 690.1 to 811. Those are special kind of line items where whatever money we put into those accounts can come out, but we can't use anything other than what we actually put in. So we have special event account, we have drama, we have a fundraiser, of course our farmers market. Those are we put in and we take out, but we don't get to do much else with that. We have to actually add to those accounts to use them. Then 725 is construction. So I normally keep money there. Like I said, again, our buildings are older, and so if we have to replace the roof, which at the Vets Hall, if anybody ever goes down there, you'll see each time we get a nice strong wind, we're losing part of that roof each time. So our guys have to go up and they have to repair. So if that happens, then I usually will try to keep some money in there because some of that is big jobs and we're not foreseeing that, so we just try to keep that account somewhat open so that if we do have to make any big if it's a big project or whatever, then we can come out of that. Other than that, so that we try not to come to you and ask for more money, so that's what that is. And then 628 is the office furniture. This is actually, I put that in there because after all this COVID is over, we're going to be wanting to, obviously we were slotted to start renting the building down there. And so we're going to need the purchase of the tables and the chairs, the carts to put the tables and chairs on, any kind of floor maintenance equipment. We may want to think about like getting our own and not borrowing, but if not, then like I said, we can always go back to the miscellaneous account and rent, or the rentals and rent the equipment. But we do need to keep that Vets Hall floor polished and cleaned. We did that just this past couple of months. We kind of worked on that floor and it's looking nice, but we're going to need to maintain that floor every 3 to 6 months. We're going to have to go back in, buff it out, clean it up, and polish it. Once we start, getting back into the groove of getting our buildings opened up and starting to use those again. So that's what that was for. I put that there because I knew we were going to have to get these things purchased. We don't have enough down there to rent the building out at this point. And I think that's it. I don't know if I skipped anything, but if I do, just call my attention to it and I'll go back.
Okay. Any questions for Sheila?
I want to make a recommendation.
Okay.
Yes.
Sheila,
Uh-huh.
I want to make
Yes,
a recommendation to you. maybe you could add $5,000 to your budget for the senior nutrition.
Uh-huh.
Because remember, I used to ask you for certain items, and all the time you used to say, we're not budgeted
Yeah.
for that. At this time,
Well, yeah, because it's not our program. Yeah, but I understand what you're talking about.
so at this time, I would.
Yeah, I did let you know. Uh-huh. It's just because it's not our program. We don't run the program. So I guess it's council's direction. I don't really know which direction they want to go, but we would have to actually, I would think, I don't know. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would think if I was going to purchase anything for the program, we would need to be involved in the program, and we're not at this point. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I can add to a budget that we don't take care of that particular program. So how would that work? I mean, it's really the council. I mean, Mel, if you have any idea how that would work, but I would think that we're not obligated to purchase anything for a program that we are not running ourselves.
Are you,
So that's the reason that I'm requesting right now as city council.
Yeah.
That we appropriate $5,000 for them, because they're not, the Commission of Aging is not doing nothing for them. And they're having issues as buying paper, buying paper for coloring books. No, they need them and nobody is buying them. The Commission of Aging is not doing anything for them. And that's the reason that I'm requesting as part of,
Uh-huh.
as part of the recreation program, I'm requesting that.
Yeah. Because I'm not, anybody could correct me again, but I think the Commission on Aging is there for the nutrition part of it, the food part. I don't know what else they actually offer, but I know there's resources over in the county to get like the coloring books and some of the art activities, I guess is what you're talking about purchasing, right? Is just arts and crafts and that kind of thing for them. Is that what we're talking about?
Correct.
Pablo?
You know,
Okay.
the makers, miscellaneous extension cords, things of that nature.
Right. Okay. Well, somebody will have to direct me on to what we could do, if anything, to how we would do that. Like I said, I think we have to be more involved in the program to actually budget for something that's a program outside of what we actually are doing. Like I said, I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah. Let me ask city manager real quick, please.
Okay.
So could we adopt what Mr. Hernandez said as far as part of recreation to provide, this,
and I'm thinking either council's budget, which Commission on Aging has requested their annual funding
Okay.
for that. It could be a special allocation for the senior program, not the senior nutrition program. It's just the actual senior program.
yeah,
It could come under recreation, but I think it would be more appropriate that it's not part of recreation, but
it's just a separate allocation for the
and it
seniors.
could fall under council, just like CRT,
Okay.
something like that.
So we could bring that next meeting then. Okay.
And that's the senior program itself,
Yes.
the activities, senior activities.
For activities.
Okay.
Does that cover that, Mr. Pablo?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I can reach out to some county organizations because I know they were going to send out coloring books and some arts and crafts so that we could send it out with the meals that we were delivering. So they were willing to kind of help out in that sense. So I can find out. I can reach back out and see. Okay.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Not a problem.
Okay.
Okay. Good night, guys.
Now we're referring to a special line item on
The council's budget.
So
Okay.
we have to
Right.
So, okay.
We could bring, if that is what council wants, we can actually plug the number in and see how that would line up. But it would be kind of a special funding request,
All
is
right.
basically what it would be, but fall under council's budget.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So,
And just for clarification, for Councilmember Ramirez, The recreation department, actually it's the community activities, and recreation falls under that. But they take care of the Veterans Hall, the recreation center, the scout house, the sports complex. So they oversee, so if there's a problem, let's say a door isn't working, send someone down, you pay for that. So it's their responsibility to make sure that those facilities are in good working order. So that's why, I know she was going back and forth, but they do take care of that, plus they rent them. They're the ones that oversee the rental. Now, the theater's different, that's separate. Okay. Yeah.
Can we put that on the budget?
Can we change the
Absolutely.
title? Okay.
You can do whatever you'd like.
Many activities,
Recreation, but also recreation.
because it, right. It's easier. No, we'll change it. We'll change the title.
But we're gonna get confused. Just kidding. Okay. All right. Any other questions? No? Okay. Very good. Thank you, Sheila.
You're welcome. You guys have a good night.
Thanks, Sheila. You too.
Okay.
Bye.
So we move on to item 2B, which is Melissa Witten, Development Impact Fees, Fund 10-4.
Yes, thank you. We had a study that was done 14 years ago, 13 years ago. And it had to be completed prior to adopting an ordinance which would put in place development impact fees. And the whole idea behind the development impact fees is that with new development, it brings impacts to the community. And the focus was on, and still is, on recreation, on expanding our city hall, obtaining property. They're the different categories, and they're all listed under 1004. I'm sorry, it's on page 57. 57. So when someone comes in to purchase a permit for even a new home, they must pay for development impact fees. And it's a fee schedule that we have established. It is, if there are any increases, it's based on the consumer price index. It was 0 this year, so those fees did not increase. And we also have a capital improvement plan that we have used some of the funds for, such as the neighborhood park, using some of the funds for the community building. So it is, there's specific fees we can only use in those categories. That's based on the study that has been used up. So that is what those fees are.
Which account are we looking at? 57.
57.
57. Page 57.
Looking at your old budget, it might be the next page.
So we're
They
looking,
inserted a page for the funding request.
And as we were required every year by the end, within 6 months after our fiscal year concludes, we are required to present the information as to what the balance of development impact fees were at the beginning of a new fiscal year. And we also must report what the amount was at the end of the fiscal year. And we must make that report. We usually do it in December. So there has to be accountability, must have accountability in place. So that is part of the review, and it's included in the council packet too. So there's several different places to review.
okay. Questions on
Any
that?
questions?
All right.
58 will kind of give you a breakdown since 2009 as to how this has worked. Oh, it only goes back to 9. That's on page 58. And it's taken quite a while for us to have any substantial amount to basically use those funds. And depends on development. Any questions? Development.
Questions on this? No?
Okay.
Okay, so we move on to,
Streetlights. Page 67, streetlights.
okay, streetlights.
And the actual revenue and expenditures are on page 68. Everybody there? Okay. Our streetlights, we must pay for the streetlights, even though I know there's some areas that are concerned that there aren't any streetlights. But everyone benefits from the streetlights. So the $2 fee that's on each utility bill helps to offset the cost of the streetlights. And that's simply what it's for.
Streetlight fund.
Yeah, I have a question. So mainly to be able to have, lights on the street, you said it's a $2 added on the bill.
Yes, it's on the utility bill.
Okay.
It's each customer, each account pays $2 each month.
Okay.
And that has not increased in at least 20 years.
Okay. Because I don't know if you remember when I was in the interview for city council, part of the things that the community was telling me at the moment was that at nighttime this looks like a ghost town. Those are exact words that some people would mention. The town is a little bit dark. Is there a possibility that we can consider some kind of doing something about the lights? Because it is. I think the community would benefit. Better lighting on the streets would be lower crime rates as well. It would just benefit the city.
We can check. We'll be happy to do that. Now that we actually have a governmental relations person and she communicates with us, so that's a good thing. We can certainly check into it.
Could you pin her down on the cost of one light pole? Not that I wanted one light pole, it's just I want to know what it would cost each time you put in a light pole.
Right. And I'm not certain if the cost for PG&E to actually erect them and provide the electricity.
I want to know what it cost us.
Right.
Because we have to pay for it.
Right. But with a new pole that goes in, when we have power that's extended to, a new development or whatever, we pay what we think that cost is going to be. So there's some projections, and I'm not quite sure how that actually will work, but we'll find out.
Okay.
But if the lights are added on an existing pole, it shouldn't be too excessive.
I'm sorry?
If the light fixture, let's say, was to be added on an existing pole, it shouldn't take too much.
Do we have poles with no lights on them?
I just want to say yes on that one, but we can double check. But I think there are some holes that maybe we can add some light in there.
Okay.
If it's all right, if I had to interject just a little bit, if you notice where our streetlights are, they're fairly close to a pole that already has a transformer on it. So some of the poles that we have that aren't close enough to a transformer, they do not put a light on. And everything in the older part of town the lighting is close to where the energy is actually transformed down to the 220 volts. So that's why there's so few lights in town. We could get more added, but it is, and I don't know the cost, Miss Willie, but there is a cost to adding transformers and poles in order to get more lighting.
Telemedicine gives you direct.
I will contact PG and begin the discussion, and thank you.
Scott, do we still need a transformer since we went to all LED lights? They should be, oh, our electrician here says yes.
Yes, because we can't put 14,000 volts on LED light. It has to be reduced, and
Oh, it reduced.
our mayor knows more about electricity than I do, but yes, we do still have.
I know nothing
Any
about
other questions? No? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Knapp.
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I just received a text from Councilmember Preciado, and he will not be able to make the meeting. He's still at work.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we move on then to departmental presentation, recycling and refuse funds and street expenditures. Rob Williams, Public Works, and Scott Davis, Recycling Fund 16.1.
Down to 65, 80, 85.
That's 16.1, so that's 84.
Oh, okay. Recycling fund.
Is Bob on the call?
Scott?
Tony Scott.
Scott? Hello?
Give him a second.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if Rob was here and was going to cover that. Well, our recycling and
Yes. Recycling
refuge
fund.
both are basically self-explanatory because we contract that out. So that's basically what it's going to be.
Right, and that's by agreement. Sorry, Scott.
Yeah, no problem, by agreement. So then we have our streets, the 25 is our LTF fund. We have been able to carry some over from the previous years.
Excuse me.
Obviously,
Scott.
I'm sorry.
You were muted. We didn't hear very much of your presentation on the recycling
Okay.
fund.
So the recycling and refuge funds are what they are because those are contracted out, and it's done on an agreement.
The recycling is actually its own fund. The refuse is by contract.
Okay,
And
I'm
it's
sorry.
on page 84, Scott, 84. And
I
this
don't
is,
have that one, Melissa. I don't know why I don't have that one.
okay. The fee that is on the utility bill for recycling, those are the funds that actually pay for this. That's part of this fund and the expenses that they pay for. We have staff. Basically, that is what the fund or this fund consists of. But it must be recycling related.
Okay. Questions on this? No? Willie, questions? No? Okay.
Now the street, Scott.
Okay, I apologize for that.
No, you're good.
Okay, streets.
So our account 25, the local transportation fund, LTF, we have been able to carry some over. Obviously, we get a little bit of revenue every year, and we are going to use that in conjunction with our gas tax fund. This is what we're trying to hopefully fund our San Joaquin Street project with. Now, we've been a few years not being able to do a whole lot of work, but we're finally getting this budget to the point where we can do some major road reconstruction. And that's basically the money we have in it. We do have our 33,000 where we started equipment parts. We have lowered that just due to the fact that we don't have a lot of maintenance on our street repair equipment. It's older equipment, but the hours on it aren't used very much. Our maintenance materials, we use most of that is like doing sidewalks and things, landscaping. Obviously, we're using more money in landscaping. We're trying to get everything kind of back up the way it was prior to our drought situation when we started using well water and the water truck to try and water landscaping down Skyline and some of the other areas, which just really hurt us bad. As far as that goes, it's been a while trying to get it back. Signs and repair materials for that, we've kept that. There's times when we go through a lot more one year than we do the next, but we thought we'd keep that in as that. With some of the new developments, we'll have more street signs. With the road projects, we'll have like our stop bar material and our lettering material will come out of that. Our other maintenance supplies we've kept the same. Our auditing services have stayed the same. Engineering services is still the same. We still have some bills coming in for this year to date, and then with more if we do the street project or when we get that. Our professional services, we mostly use that on the street lighting for Skyline Boulevard is where we use most of that, just because those lights are high voltage. They're 480 3-phase, and there's very few things that we actually do other than maybe changing out the light heads. When we have an electrical problem there, we call in a professional electrician. The gas and electricity, that also goes towards that bill. And then our water contracts, and I'm not sure, the paper I'm looking at shows that it's 89,800. But then it was blank as what we budgeted. So I can't explain that one because I didn't ask prior to this meeting before we got here.
Do you have anything on a worksheet, Don?
I'm sorry, I was trying to fix something.
It's gas tax under 674.
Under line 674. I know that our water had gone up with, we decided that we were going to try and keep everything alive, but I'm not sure why there's nothing showing previous or what was budgeted previously. So. And a lot of this is also on maintenance of all of our side streets and everything as well. So
It may be a formatting issue, Scott, and I'll take a look at it. Give me just a minute.
Okay. But other than that, I guess, are there any questions on our gas tax fund?
Questions besides that line 674?
And between these funds, LTF is for renovation, basically road construction, reconstruction. And the HUDA, the highway users tax, is for maintenance, and we can also use that for refurbishing roads. But both are restricted funds.
You think he's okay?
And just for Pablo, for everyone, because we've spoken about the local transportation funds. If you look at the LTF, those are the funds that come in. This is what's left over after after planning at the county KCAG, and whatever's left over goes into streets. So as those other line items increase, there's less money that goes into our streets. So it does impact us, but I wanted to explain that. Hopefully that helps with numbers in front of it. Okay, thank you.
So we can come back to line 674 once,
It was also budgeted last year, but it zeroed, so I'm not quite
yes, it's
certain.
blank too.
I'm looking now.
Yeah.
Well, there, it looks like there hasn't been any budget for 2 years, but you've spent money. Because the prior year it was about 80.
The year to date is 0, or I'm sorry, it's 89. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there.
Year to date's 89,000.
Right,
But there was no no budget to take it out of.
right. So I'm not certain why that is.
But the previous year, the same thing happened. There was no budget.
Okay, Dawn will continue looking, and if we cannot provide an answer tonight, we'll give the information to council.
Okay, so we move on to grant funds, Fund 20-39.
We have been fortunate in prior years, but with our very active community development department has done a great job in obtaining grant funds and also working with consultants. And it's a little, there's some line items that have zeroed out or there's very little left, so it is a little confusing. But the one that I know there have been questions about, we're on page, 93 for grant funds. The program income, and there's a list of starting at, let me see, the 47752 all the way to 48759. When the city, once we receive CDBG funds and we approve a loan for a home, there's a portion usually that the homeowner has to carry themselves, and then there's a portion that the city actually helps. But anyway, if that home is years ago, it was on a payment. Let's say the home refinance, or actually the home sold. The amount that is owed on that home through escrow, we receive those funds back. And so that's the program income. It's just those funds coming back into the program income fund. And there are certain things that we can and can't do with those funds. But we've been involved with community development block grants since 1983. So it's been a very good and successful program for us. Did you have a comment? No? Oh, okay. Tony's involved in this. So it's CDBG has been a really good resource for us, but it is competitive. We are not an entitlement city. It means that we have to compete for funds. And there are criteria about whereas you have to use a certain amount of funds before you can apply for other funds. And we have worked very well with self-help on acquiring the CDBG funds. Let's see. On page 95, and it is the second line item down, the 21,000. It's 16 CDBG. That is our grant, I believe, for our community center. And that's why it's so high. The page 96. And And some of these funds basically are used up. Some funds might be returned to the state, or you might be able to, or through the help of self-help, they might be able to find someone that needs, let's say someone that needs handicap accessibility in their home. There might be some funds available to help if there's, you know, a small amount of funds left. So we do try to maximize the use. Home funds, the actual home funds have been used and been a very successful program to help families with buying a home. So there's one development in town on North First, Pandaquala, and we have been able to provide funds to homeowners. They receive or acquire a conventional loan, and then we come in as a second. So they would be able to buy a nice home. And we really appreciate those that have participated in the program. You can actually drive around town and see these properties have been so well kept. And we're just really, really happy that there are community members that have been able to take advantage of this program, and they have a home for the first time. And they take a lot of pride in that. So it's been a very successful program. And again, we work very closely with Self-Help Enterprises as a consultant. Oh, I'm trying to, the Wonderful Grant, which is on page 100, both Donna and I had a bit of a question about that. It's showing $25,000. Excuse me, there are two grants. There was one for $93,450 and then one for $25,000. We believe one of the grants, I believe it's the one for $93,450. We're not sure why the funds weren't transferred out. It was for their portion of the Fit Club or the Fit Center. They actually helped with that. Wonderful Company has also been a great supporter of our tech center at the Recreation Center. I don't believe we were funded this year, though. So,
so the balance on this fund is not the actual balance?
I don't think so. I think some funds should be transferred out to help fund the Fit Club or the Fit Center. I'm not sure that that was done according to what we're seeing here. Okay. So we will make sure that's up to date. And let's see, that is, oh, the housing related parks grant for construction. Sorry, the project. It's been focused on recreation is what we've been focusing on.
Is it the park behind?
I believe it's
the boxing club?
No, that is actually Prop 68 funding. It's a different funding source. I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank, but it's housing related parks grant. And it's actually been very useful to us. And we hope that continues, but it's based on how many units have been constructed. I will have to look at them. No, it's based on per unit that's been developed. We receive a certain amount per unit. We're drawing blanks, so we will work on that and provide the information. I think that's a little different. That was around the $200,000 amount.
Those are the funds that were used for the restroom.
The HRPP is? Okay. 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 We have funds in there, so I will find out for certain. I guess if I saw more expenditure, it would make more sense to me. So we will, that's on page 100. We will look. So moving on to the water transmission line grant. Okay. On page 102, the city applied for, and this is done through community development, a grant, a planning grant to actually study a portion of our 18-inch water line that we're having so many problems with. Our both water lines, there's an 18-inch transmission line and a 12-inch. The 18-inch line has given us there's been quite a challenge. There is a portion of the line, of the 8-mile line, about 3 miles of that line it has had many leaks. And so there's some failures going on. So the study has been completed. The construction application has been submitted. I believe the city could receive up to $6 million to help repair or at least replace those lines, but it would require new easements. We would have to go out to bid. So it would be quite an expensive project, but at least we're taking steps forward to address the issue that we have going on. We have Public Works, the crew that knows exactly what to do when there's a leak. At one time, 2 years ago, we had, Scott can help me, 15 leaks, Scott, in about a month period or 6-week period. He may have logged off. Is he on? Rob is? We had a series of leaks and it was very concerning. We had to bring a contractor in because we had leaks going on at the same time. And there is a question regarding the quality of the material that was used for the line. Anyway, we have taken steps forward, and thank you again for community development, for applying for the grants and seeing this project through, and hopefully we will be successful and receive those grant funds. And that would be again for the 18-inch line. That's the line originally that supplied water to the prison, but through different valves, if we needed water in town, some water could be diverted to us. So it's a very important line for not only Avenal State Prison, but also for the city. The 12-inch line is specifically for the city itself. The planning grant. We also, working with A&M, that's Alfonso Manrique, his engineering firm, he applied for $500,000 and was a study for our wastewater treatment plant, but also our wastewater collection system. That is just about complete, and application for submission to replace many areas in town. Basically, we would have a new sewer collection system because ours is very old and it's falling apart. We were able, through those funds, working through Mr. Manrique, to have all of our lines. We had a camera, so we have a better idea of the issues that we have going on underground. So we are hoping that we'll be successful and be able to utilize the funds to replace our dated sewer line. For any funds that are left over, we could possibly use them, and I believe we can, according to Mr. Manrique, use those funds for upgrades or replacements out at the wastewater treatment plant. It was built in 1986, 87, and through the different supervisors that we've had, they have done a great job keeping that equipment up and replacing. But water equipment is expensive, but wastewater equipment seems to it costs more money just to keep things going. So if there's some way that we can, through grant funds, to replace what needs to be replaced, that would be a real benefit to us. And I want to thank not only our staff, but also Mr. Manrique. He's done a great job in helping us. So that's a stay tuned, see how that goes. The PetSmart grant, that is completed. And we're on page 105 now. The tree partnership grant, I'd like to thank Tony again. He played a very large part in this, and now we have 150 trees? 215, okay. So, the second. So if we were to use a drone, we could see all the nice trees that have been planted. They're starting to. Oh, that'd be really nice. That'd be nice. But thank you, Tony. This was in partnership with the Avenal Historical Society, so I think it was a great project. So thank you. And that's all we have right now for grants. And the Community Development Department, Fernando is the grant writer, Community Development Department. He and Tony, they're always looking for opportunities for us. And we can apply for grants, but what is more important is that we apply for grants where we would benefit and that are needed. So, and they've done a great job, and I appreciate that very much. Any questions? I will get the one answer for council.
Questions on any others? No? All right.
So the Public Financing Authority, which is on page 106, actually that's the title page. It will be 107. I could go into a lot of detail about our bonds. They were issued in 1990, and they were for the purpose of improving certain areas in town, one large area being the curbs, gutters, and sidewalks, which we did not have that infrastructure, and we had a very concerning drainage issue because we're built on the side of a hill, so water flows through and accumulates. At least there is a plan as to how that water drains, and that was the big step, and have sidewalks that you can actually walk on. So that's just kind of a little bit of a background, but we issued $11 million in bonds. We are still paying on them, and we will until 2036, I believe. So in that, we must pay the bondholders, and the Public Financing Authority, from the different areas where the bond paid for improvements, those departments, the money goes into the Public Financing Authority. It's like a bank, and they hold on to the money until we make our interest payment or we make our principal payment, and that happens one principal and one interest one time each year. But that is what that's for. That's to help pay our bonds, and we have an obligation for many more years. However, we're still, I believe, reaping the benefits of a decision that was made years ago. We did acquire some property. There were a few leases the city didn't have. It was in the early years, and we didn't have equipment. So we were able to obtain through the bonds purchase of equipment and some of the larger pieces of equipment that we still have to date. That lease has already been paid off. We were able to refinance the bonds in 2005, I believe, which actually helped us decrease the actual revenue and interest amount. This had to do with the curbs, gutters, and sidewalks. So the portion that the city had the obligation for through the redevelopment agency, this is complicated, since that was paid off through the refinance of the bonds, that money actually went into 10.5. It was one-time money, and it was actually titled the Community Improvement Fund. It was one-time money, and this council used it, and previous councils used it very carefully, so it did last us for several years. It helped to purchase banners. That actually helped with the construction of the animal control facility. It helped with the theater. So it was a little over $1 million, as I recall, years ago. And there's still a small amount that's left in there. So that all had to do with the bonds. I think it was a very good step that we actually took in getting the bonds refinanced. It helped us financially and put us in a better position. But those funds, again, are just about depleted. So there's our Public Financing Authority. That's the same one, sorry. The Avenal, the City of Avenal Operating Authority is a joint powers authority that is between the hospital district that is still an active district and the City of Avenal, who basically oversees the district. We still work with the board of the hospital district, and then again with our city. There are 2 board members, one being the city, one being the hospital district. There are offices on the west side of what we know as the hospital, the old district hospital. That is basically part of the district. There's office there, there are files there. So again, it is still intact. As you know, the east side is our police station, and we entered into a lease agreement with the hospital district, so that's still in effect. And looking at page 110, that just gives you a little background. For Dawn is the treasurer, I'm the administrator, Angie is the secretary. There are funds that help pay for that portion of our salaries through the operating authority. We haven't used the funds over and above that. I don't even think even for repairs, maybe for a door, that's about it. There isn't a large amount of funds that actually come into the district, but again, it is still a district that's in effect. So we must show it as a budgeted item so we can account for it. That is on page 1. The capital improvement project, I know we've discussed that, CIP, it gets a little confusing. This will be before the council at the next meeting. It's at the end of the year, and this is what mostly happens with budget. You'll see in the 700 series on the different line items, such as recreation, and they would like to purchase something, and let's say it's $20,000. They don't have the funds, and we don't have the general funds enough to, in 1 year, to take 20,000 and actually allow that expenditure. What we do is we would ask Sheila or Anna to please just budget $5,000 a year. It will take 4 years. But at the end of that year, if there are funds in the general fund, there will be a transfer from that 5,000, let's say in recreation as an example, it would go into the capital improvement. So after 4 years, there should be $20,000 there. So the CIP is basically a bank. And it is accounted for, and it requires the approval by council to draw those funds down and pay for whatever it's been budgeted for, but it's by category as well. You have water, wastewater, the office, utilities, so they all have line items. There are certain line items, there was money, but we have used those for maintenance or for capital expenditures. So it's hard to, we're not quite sure how much we might be using each year. It has been very, very valuable to basically our water and wastewater treatment plants because of the cost for infrastructure improvements. But that is what CIP is for. And I've been saving for many years for a desk at $100 a year, and this is where it goes.
Under which line item?
I don't know. It'll be under the office, probably the city manager's account. That's where it will be.
It's not listed on here, so you don't have.
Then she's holding out.
General fund
It should be
hasn't
on me.
been real flush the last few years.
Oh, that's been several years. But that's how it's used, and this is what it looks like. And that will be on page 114. We have in the past replaced vehicles, having, let's say a vehicle, the amount was $30,000 and there just wasn't enough in funds to do that. They would do the transfer of $15,000 one budget year, the next budget year $15,000, and then with council's approval, they could purchase a vehicle. So again, it's basically the bank to save until we can afford what we need. The last item, well, one of the last items, the successor agency. This is what is basically left over of the redevelopment agency. And I know we discussed this briefly in my little introduction to our budget last week. We lost, when the redevelopment agency was basically dissolved, and we had to go through steps. There were properties that were involved, there were funds involved, that at the end we lost approximately $1.3 million in the city. And that's another large one that we have not recuperated from. Redevelopment, the whole idea was to take blighted areas of your town or your county and to put the money back in to those areas to develop and improve. And as you did, it would raise the assessed value of those properties. And that's what we received, the increased assessment value. But unfortunately, it was dissolved. Ours was actually established in 1985 when Mr. Bludow was here still. So this was a very large loss. But we are required to pay our bonds. One of those areas where the money comes into the Public Finance Authority would be through the successor agency. Those are the old RDA bonds. Those are the old RDA funds. That was a very big discussion when, during the dissolution of the redevelopment agencies, how are these entities that have bonded out with improvements in their redevelopment area, how would those agencies be able to pay for those bonds or their other loans, their agreements? So that took a while to get that area straightened out. But those are the bond funds, the 624, 300. It would go into the Public Financing Authority along with the water treatment fund, or the water fund would be the other portion of that to go into the authority to help pay for bonds. So the successor agency required to, now I think it's our reporting, the ROPS reporting. We don't have an oversight agency here with the city. It's all done at the county level now, but we do have items that we take to them, and one had been the property on San Joaquin Street. So it is still an agency, and we must account for it. It is Fund 80, and that was the old redevelopment fund account itself. Wow. 117, I think this is the last page, and that shows your revenue and your expenditures.
Did you find that line, Ms. Dawn? 674?
There's an extra line in my Excel spreadsheet where it shifted everything up, but it will be fixed.
Okay. So there
I
is
tried to
something
do it
there.
on my phone and something popped up.
Will it change the bottom line?
No,
Okay.
it was a 0 line item. It
Even
just,
though it was showing the 80,000 plus on there, it was 0 out. Okay. So that's all we have for expenditures. Are there any questions?
Questions on this? No.
Would it be appropriate to take a break now in the event that someone
You
likes
guys
to
saying happy
stretch your
birthday
legs?
to Mr. Pablo and partake of cake? Well, let's take 5 then.
Okay.
Yeah. Minutes or 10 to. Okay, we'll be taking a break to sing Mr. Pablo happy birthday.
can bring it up on yours.
The,
Let me get to revenues. Then it's my next comment.
I just shut it down.
If you'd like, we can go ahead and start on the revenues, and hopefully she'll be able to bring up the ones that I want to break down. There aren't that many.
Well, let's do what we can.
Which one did you want to start on? I don't know, she doesn't want to put it up.
So if you would please, the actual summary, budget summary is on page 6, which I think we briefly reviewed last week. It does have the estimated revenues, and it includes the proposed expenditures. So this is one of the more important sheets when you're just looking at the budget, if you want to see the bottom line numbers and not all the details, but certainly those are important too. But the first fund I would like to review is the general fund. It is, in the summary page is on page 10. I would like to inform council that I budgeted very conservatively this year. There are some unknowns, which council's aware of. Property tax, I actually think we're going to be okay. Sales tax, there may be a delay, and those are two of the larger line items. The smaller items being, let's say, revenue for different events in town. We haven't had our vaccination clinic yet. Along with vaccination clinic, people obtain license. So there are a few revenue sources that we'll probably see a delay in just because of what has happened this year. Not saying that we won't have different events. It just means that there's a good chance they'll be delayed a bit. As you can see, the bottom line, that we were able to balance the general fund. When we first saw the first numbers, I had no idea how we were going to get here. The second number, that was a little over 600,000 in the red. Then it decreased to about 422,000. But we have been able to balance a budget, all being good. Okay, but understand that there are some line items that really couldn't give a good amount because we're not sure how long the situation is going to last and how we delay some of the different areas or events going on. So, and again, I like the summary pages. It tells a story. We are revenue over expenditures, but at 26,035, and it's years like this that it is so important to have reserves in place. You don't want to use the reserves unless you absolutely have to. So let's go ahead and proceed to page 13, which is actually the general fund revenue page, the first page. This actually lays out the revenues that we believe are going to, that we will receive this year. The first item is 40101, and that's property taxes at 474,644. Property tax vehicle license fee, we believe there will be the 2% increase, so that would be at $2,125,000. We received that in 2 increments. There's one in late December and one in late April. That is a big one for us. Yes, we have. Yes, we have. There is some delay in our actual property tax. That is where the period 13 is so important in the accounting world, which I'm sure those of you that have worked with budgets, a lot happens in that month, and it could extend on to August and possibly September. But by that time, it could potentially be new revenue for the next year. But so we will receive additional funds even after June 30 of this year. Another item are our sales tax. We're a smaller community, and to have a large community that depends heavily on sales tax, which it would be great to have additional retail, and it will happen. There is interest in Avenal, but each project takes time to develop. But sales tax are very important, but they're not 100% for the city. Property tax transfer, that's exactly it, when property transfers. Aircraft tax, we were surprised we hadn't received anything in years. Transient occupancy taxes, those are hotel tax that you receive. We only have actually 2 in town. So that is just a minute amount. We don't receive a lot in that. If we had a new hotel or a couple of new hotels, we possibly would want to look at increasing what our OT percentages. Our refuse franchise tax, this is when we collect funds for refuse. We have the agreement with Mid-Valley Disposal. They actually pay a franchise tax, and we receive that back, and those are the revenues back from that. Cable franchise is basically the same. Electric franchise tax. I'm sorry, here we go. Water, I went right over. We charge the water fund 3%, I believe. I think that's the max that we can actually charge for franchise, because we process everything. And your water fund and your sewer fund, they're basically, they call them proprietary funds. They're basically businesses. So they must pay for themselves, and there must be funds set aside in the event that equipment breaks down or something happens that's unanticipated. But it's not separate from the city, but it is its own business, so to speak. So they do pay a franchise amount. It is accepted in the auditing world. We can do that. So let's say we sell a lot of water, the city then will receive additional funds in water fund or in the franchise tax. The electric and gas franchise, when I was looking back at old resolutions, this franchise agreement was entered into in either 1980 or 81. So we receive a portion of that each year. It did increase this year, which was really good. We receive directly from PG&E once a year. Oh, let's see. Reef Sunset Unified School District. We entered into an agreement for a juvenile services officer. They pay half and the city pays half. It's a 50-50 agreement, and that is their portion. Okay, other governmental grants. That would be the recycling grant, which is a $5,000 grant that's awarded each year if we apply for it. And it must be designated, there must be designated areas for purchase. And you have 2-3 years, I believe, to be able to expend the funds. If not, they're disencumbered and you have to send them back basically to the state. Moving down to the planning grant, Prop 1, the $50,000, that number came from Mr. Manrique for the solar grant. That's $50,000 in admin fees. We just have to keep track of our time. The other grant administration, that is for the actual planning grant for the wastewater treatment system. Let's see, Prop 8. Oh, the new park also has an admin component of $100,000. And what is not used, let's say that this project goes forward, but it probably won't take that long. Starts this year and it concludes the following year. We would actually carry over whatever funds were left in admin or the project, it would be carried over for the following year. So we could, let's say we expended $70,000, we'd carry over $30,000 to the next year. So we would have those funds to work with, but they're for admin only.
So all these under 41126, all these grants, I was really confused about that, wondering why they were in general fund. This is only the admin portion of each of those grants.
Basically, recycling grant, not necessarily admin, but they're considered other grants. They're not line item grants. They're grant funds that we may not receive next year. It may only be a one-time, but there are several that are the administration of grants that we have, current grants.
Okay.
And we did, I don't know that we actually put them in line items last year, but they are included this year. And it actually helps me too. This is what you would basically find in the portion of the revenue portion in my area of responsibility on the budget. I would line item them out in my notes, and that's what I was trying to get to here. The APD infrastructure grant, that's just for improvements. That was money that was a one-time money received from the state. That's how the EOC Center was built. There's a remainder of $9,200. I'm not certain what they would use that for, maybe for painting, we don't know. General business license, that we're in that process, the annual process, so that we'll see revenues through the end of June into July. Plus we'll have, if a new business opens, they'll pay for a new business license. So during the next year. So it's basically a continual revenue source. But when we receive the largest amount of funds is at the end of the budget year going into the new budget year. That is Gigi, who's our finance assistant. She's in charge of sending out general business license and preparing them to send back to the business owners. Each business license, they must pay an additional $1, I believe. And that actually goes to the state. It's $2 now? When did it go?
2 years ago.
Well, it started out as $1.
How's that?
Can't see it. Sorry. Old eyes, I can't read that
I do
far.
wear my glasses when I drive, though.
I can read the one on my desk easier. Thank you.
I can't see anything.
That's pretty clear.
The animal, oh, I'm sorry. I have to make that note. The animal control license, that is a requirement in the city that you must have your animal vaccinated and licensed. We would see a larger amount. Unfortunately, we have not had the animal clinic for this year, but we do plan on having one maybe later in the summer early in the fall, it's important that we do have a clinic. Sometimes that is the only way that our residents can get their animals vaccinated. So you'd see an increase in the license fee in that area. So once that happens, you again should see an increase in revenue. Building permits, we do have the new subdivision that's coming in. I think the 58,000 is probably very conservative, but again, it just depends on how quickly the houses are built when they are pulling the permits. The Pandaquala, they're finishing out their last phase, so we won't see a lot of activity there. But in the past year, the increase was from the Arroyo del Camino apartments. There is a building development training fee that we are required to charge. It's all part of the building permits themselves. That has to be reported to the state. On page 14, the SB 1473, again, a permit fee that we are required to charge. The well permits, all of the oil wells, any gas wells that are within the city limits that were part of Standard Oil, Chevron, and now the responsibility of CRC, they're required to pay $500 per well per year. That is a requirement by ordinance. Live scan fees, that would be at the police department level. They do have a live scan machine there. Vehicle abatements, that depends on how focused they will be. I think they will be because we're having a problem again. Understand we only have a code enforcement officer. I'm not certain that we'll be filling that second vacancy, but vehicle abatements, when they do it, they usually do many vehicles at a time as opposed to going around to each individual because it requires the help of the police department to do so. And you sit on the vehicle abatement committee, correct?
I'm the chair.
Okay. The planning community development services, those are planning fees that are charged. And again, that's based on development, any kind of new applications coming in. It's nice to see that there's activity there. PD miscellaneous revenues. Do you have, post reimbursement. When officers go to training, which they're required to complete so many hours of training a year, Post was very generous in their reimbursements for years, not so much now, but we do receive revenue from them. The Community Corrections Partnership.
That's the county program with
Yes.
probation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the CCR, or CCRP.
CCP.
Yeah, and there's 26,000. They just, Rusty said just to roll it over from last year, so that is the 26,000 there. Weed abatement, self-explanatory. We just have to have the funds available in the event that we hire a contractor to come in and clean a lot if it's too large for our staff to do so. The street sweeper is leased by Mid-Valley Disposal. So that's revenue received. Animal vaccinations, again, once we hold the clinic, you'll see an increase in revenues there. Spay and neuter, a little bit of activity, not as much as we like to see. The animal control miscellaneous fees, the largest portion of that is the agreement that we have with the city of Corcoran. We take their animals and we care for them. And we have adopted some out, but the largest portion of the animals, the largest number, have been rescued. Not only Avenal, but it seems like Corcoran even more, and we're at about 65% rescue. So I'm actually very, very proud of what Louie and Joe Ray are doing out at the animal control facility. You can go into that facility anytime during the day or night, and it will be spick and span, and it does not have an odor. I've been into some animal control facilities that the odor is quite pungent. So I'm really proud of them and what they do. And the animals seem very happy out there. they're fed, and what we would like to do is to adopt them out, but with the rescue agencies, they find good homes for them. So that's very encouraging. I think it's a great program that the councils have supported over the years. And this all started with the construction of the new animal control facility. We were able to do much more. And I don't know if you know Pablo, I'm not sure if you know either, or Alex. Our animal control facility was basically an open area by the landfill, an enclosure for the animals. It wasn't enclosed, it was air.
It was a
but
chain link cage.
Kind of, yes. I was trying not to say that.
That's what it was.
It was money that we had to put back. We used part of the community development fund and other general fund monies to build the facility, and we were able to provide, I believe, much better service to our community and certainly for the animals and for their care. So actually very proud of that facility and the operations there, and we have some great people that are operating it. Now we get into the different areas where it's basically hard to guess what's going to happen as far as renting out the recreation building, renting out the theater, renting out the Veterans Hall. I believe the numbers are a little low, but again, we don't really know what is going to happen, how all of this is going to progress, or if we'll be able to open these facilities to our community. There are still families that would like to have parties and gatherings, but we are still under the governor's orders. But hopefully that will be lifted sooner than later. So the different recreation areas, those are basically budgeted very conservatively of what we think might happen this next year. That being also the Fit to Succeed, the theater concessions. We have to have the theater open before we can have concessions, and again, we're hoping that will happen. Our booking fees basically have been rather low. We had an issue a few years ago where there was an accounting error at the county, so our booking fees actually, the amount that we were receiving ended up not being the amount that basically we should have been receiving. It was less. So that was a little discouraging at the time. Vehicle fines, I believe that's through TurboTax. No, excuse me, TurboTax is 172. We only receive a portion of fines unless they're administrative. Criminal fines being the same. TurboTax, that is just infractions. They actually, when tickets are written, it goes to a second party, and it's actually the city of Hanford that administers it, and we receive the portion that belongs to the city or should come to the city. Supplemental law enforcement, that is how we've been able to, or PD has been able to purchase equipment. It must be for frontline law enforcement. That grant is very specific. That is how the vehicles have been purchased over the past few years. And those 2 signs that council approved last week, these are where the funds for that money would come from. We receive, it started out as 100,000, but we seem to receive more than that each year. We can't count on it, but we believe the 148,000 is probably a good number. City fines, that would be, let's say someone was overusing water, or maybe possibly some kind of abatement where someone was cited, and that's all administrative. That would be by following the administrative code in our municipal code. I'm offering a little more information because Alex is here and Pablo, this is his second year. I just wanted to provide you just a little more information, and write your questions down if you need more explanation, not a problem. The vehicle tow, I know that's been kind of an issue in the past, that the city was towing too many vehicles, which is not the case. But if there is any type of public health and safety issue with, let's say, a driver, there's certain policies and procedures that our law enforcement must follow. But understanding law enforcement is there to enforce the law, but they also, compliance is number 1. And if it comes down to having to tow a vehicle, I believe our chief, it was for a very good reason. So, and the city receives $100 of the vehicle tow itself, even though it's very expensive to do so. The building construction and debris, let's say a developer comes in and they need to remove a home or a house or a building. They must come to the city and pay, I believe it's $100 deposit for C&D, and this is by state law. And we will not return those funds until they bring us a receipt for when they go and dispose of whatever it is that they tore down or destroyed. They must bring their ticket back to us so we can either reimburse them or we keep those funds. But that is required by law that we have that policy in place. Donations, it just depends. We've had actually quite a bit in donations as far as the fireworks go, as far as other events in town. There are people in town that have been very generous to the city to help in providing monetary donations to see that an event goes smoothly and is successful, and we appreciate them. Sheila and Anna, they draft letters and send them to the different agencies and to individuals. So we have some great community supporters and really do appreciate that. Let's see, the canine, no, I'm sorry. The donation, the Coats for Kids, that is, this past year, it was actually done specifically through the police department. And those that were in need, the individuals or the families were actually chosen by the police department and they received letters. I was here at the event, very nicely done, but they depend on donations to be able to do that. And I tell you, there's some happy children and families when someone gets a new coat or sweater. It's a really nice thing that PD does. The refunds, 451, that could be our insurance. If we had a good year, we had little activity as far as insurance and claims. That would be where that is paid, and we have had at least one good year. We've actually had a few good years, and we believe that will be, again, we've had a pretty good year this year. The interest income that's based on our funds that are in the bank or LAIF that are designated general fund, that is the interest revenue that we receive. The transfer in and out of funds, you'll see that is in the red. Let's see, the transfer ins would be the Avenal District Hospital. That would be for the personnel portion of the operating authority. The successor agency itself, yes, the 172. Other penalties that are associated with the general fund, we have nothing gains or losses. Carryover from prior year, that would be programs, any projects. Do you have that listed? It should be under my notes. Can you pull that, please? Dawn, I apologize. It just wasn't coming up.
For which?
It would be 45190. Carryover for prior years. We're at 515,500. There should be there should be several line items on there, or notes. Okay, is she scrolling down? The next item that is very significant would be the 45208, and that's the landfill rental. We believe the 400,000 is a good projection, but what I would like to point out is of that 400,000, 174,000 actually is offsetting the refuse bills for our community. And the other would go into the general fund itself. There's a landfill offset for the refuse that is brought into the city. We pay $25 a ton. $5 is actually given back to the city per ton. basically, that is our budget until Dawn can tell me what I actually, are you on there yet? Okay, I cannot see.
It's okay.
I will come over there.
I'm trying to get over there. Let's see, the 515. That's what I'm working on. And then it moved on me. Nation. You have KC admin fees.
That's Kings County admin fees for when we were, this had to do with the triple flip and how the property taxes were being formulated. We actually had a disagreement with the county on that. Those funds had never been spent. And that's 241,000. It could be used for program. We have in recycling, we have 11,500. We have COPS money, I believe, for 2 years.
We had revolving and others.
It doesn't continue after.
No.
Can you go down and,
I am down.
oh, 1920 projects, prevention projects. So that would be any project that is not listed on here, whatever is left over is going to be here and carried over. The APD, that should be, that is actually, should be deleted. Is it zeroed?
Yes.
Okay.
You just had a lump sum right there. Your COPS 1819.
That should be. It's my phone number. That's for the community center. Nothing big or carryover. Construction's gone. Oh, right here. Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Those are basically, okay. A large portion is the COP, the carryover programs and projects.
Revolving and others.
That can help me. This isn't the second line item, correct? Right here.
No, that's the next line.
Okay.
And that was
right here.
Yeah.
It's not you, it's me.
See, you had. Sorry,
No.
Shifted it.
This could be any type of grant funds. We've had admin fees that were actually carried over, or any project carried over. Such as if you had a project that was ongoing this year, there were still funds that were left over, we're going to carry them over. I don't have them. They would be on my actual written worksheet, and I apologize if they're not on there. And it's only giving a lump sum, it's not giving me the categories. But I will check on that, but it would be anything that was left over from this year is being carried over to the next year as funds that haven't been used. But that total is 515.5, and I will get that broken down for you. We have no reserve funds.
We had landfill rental.
We already went over that.
Oh.
I am drawing a blank, but it is whatever projects are being left over, they're carried over, and I'll get those itemized for you.
But that
And
pretty
as you
much
can see-
concludes the general fund.
That concludes the general fund. As you can see, general fund revenue, as it's projected, is down from last year.
Okay.
And it is because of the uncertainties of this year. There may be additional funds that come in. Some of the funds may be even higher than what we think, but as we've done in the past, we usually budget very conservatively. So let's.
Is there any questions on this from Melissa on the general fund? Besides the breakdown of the 515, 500?
451, I know. Are there any notes right at the end, Dawn, by any chance?
I'm sorry?
Any notes at the end at all? No, never mind.
I can't hear you.
I'll talk to you.
Okay.
Thank you. And that is this, your general fund is basically what covers operations at the city. It includes your building, your law enforcement, it includes code enforcement, recreation, community activities, the city council, city manager, the city clerk, our finance, all those operations. Then you have your water that's separate, you have your sewer that's separate, and then your other basic recycling and refuse. But these are actually the funds that keep the city services at City Hall going. So I would like to point out, because there was a question before we go on to the next fund, if we may, here, is I provided you a copy of, it's black and it also has red, some red print areas. And it is titled Various City Agencies and Police Department Expenditure Comparisons. I know there was a question regarding the law enforcement budget. So I asked Rusty to contact 3 cities, and I asked Dawn to contact 3, and I also contacted 2. We provided the city population, what the operating budget was for that particular city. We wanted to know the number of officers and their dispatchers or their non-sworn personnel who are actually part of police department. And that is how, for the most part, they are paid as well. So we did contact Huron, that being Dawn. Their population is $6,926. The general fund, their operating is general fund. They had a measure, and then they have COPS funds, which we receive as well. Their total is 1.6, basically 1.6 million. They have 14 officers and 6 dispatchers, and their per capita police expenditure is $235.80 per person. Lindsay, city population is very similar to ours, 13,546. The operating budget, 3.94,000. Number of officers, we have 16 to support staff. And then the police officers also act as firefighters. That was something that was a buzz for several years. It makes it a little bit difficult when you get into the specifics of law enforcement and the specifics of fire, but it seems like they've been able to make this work, and they have 1.5 personnel. So their per capita police expenditure is $220.41 per person. Tehachapi has a population of 12,616. Their operating budget is almost 3.9 million. Number of officers, they have 19 officers, 1 code enforcement officer, 9 dispatchers, and a records clerk, 1. And their per capita police expenditure at $309.08. Exeter, which is on the east side, they have a population of 10,533. Their budget is $2,772,900. They have 17 officers with no limit on reserve officers and 1.5 support staff. Their per capita expenditure is $663.26 per person. Corcoran, the city population is 13,397. This does not include the prisons. They have 2 prisons there. I just want to make that very clear. The PD, their budget amount is 4.5 million. They have 19 officers and 7.5 dispatchers. Per capita police expenditure of $335,000. $335.90. Gosh, I have thousands on my mind. Kerman, the population is 15,763. General fund is basically 4 million. They have 23 officers and 5 support staff. Their per capita expenditure, $256.86. This is actually a good exercise. The population of Taft, I thought that would be kind of a good comparison. We had many people that lived in Avenal that moved to Taft many years ago. So city population, 9,396. Their PD budget, 3.2 million. Number of officers in the departments, they have 14 officers, 5 dispatchers, 2 community service officers, 1 animal control officer. They have 1 code enforcement. They have administrative assistant of 1 and reserve officers 2, and then 2 volunteers. Their per capita police expenditure of $342.81. The last is Orange Cove. They have a population of 9,571. Their operating budget for their PD is 1.7 million. The number of officers in the department, they have 9 officers. That includes their chief. School resource officers of 2, reserve officers 2, and 2 records clerk. So their per capita police expenditure is $178.81. So compared to the city of Avenal, our 2021 proposed operating budget for the police department is almost 3 million. We have a population of 13,310. Our per capita expenditure is $223.02. We have 17 officers, 1 reserve, and 2 support staff. So I hope that information is helpful so you can see where we are compared to other cities. But one thing to understand is that every city is different, and the problems in cities or the issues that are going on in cities, they can be different as well. So it's going to depend. You have a good chief, you could have a good assistant chief and sergeants, and a lot can be done. Some great things can be done in a community. And for the 10 years that our police department has been mobilized, very proud of their accomplishments. So I hope, again, that this information is helpful.
Taft was interesting. They put a lot of things under their police department.
I noticed that too.
Animal control, and I've heard of code enforcement being up there, but animal control.
I had Kalinga. I looked on the Kalinga site, and they, according to what the site states, they have 10 officers, but they have several code enforcement officers. They have animal control. I believe they have about 22 or 23 that actually fall under law enforcement. So after looking at that, I thought, I'm not sure that that would be a good comparison, but they have a great team over there. And I have family members that live over there. There's just a concern with some of the activity that goes on, which has happened over the past several months, but I think they have a good force and they're doing a great job over there. So anyway,
before we go on,
sure.
I think the numbers that are reflecting here on this report for Avenal, they're inaccurate. The reason for that is we're putting a population of 13,110, but we're including the prison on that. However, on Corcoran, we're putting city population without the prison. So in my opinion, that should be the same on this one. After you recalculate everything, I checked on Google just minutes ago, and as of April 30, 2020, the prison from the population is 4,197. So the actual population for this town is 9,113, and that does put the expenditure per capita at $325.73. It's almost $100 difference if you multiply $100 times, 9,191. It's almost $1 million that we're missing out. So I think this report it might need to be revised, in my opinion, and we should include also the crime rates that are within the city. I think that would be helpful, just to be transparent on this. The population is not correct. The per capita is not correct. And we should exclude the prison population from it because they don't benefit from the police department. They have COs that, the police department doesn't. Or am I mistaken? The police department doesn't go to the prison. We're not involved.
No, we have no enforcement inside the facility. It's outside that we do.
Yeah,
And
that's my point.
there was traffic. What we're going to find, I believe, I just did an estimate of our population for our water, and we are close to 17,000 in the people that we serve. And that's overall, we believe there are, we have a population of 400 to 600 people that are not counted, that are receiving services. And this is water, and this is a number that I'm working from. We have people that actually don't live here, but they have their jobs here. You have your COs. We know that there's coverage 24/7. There has to be, and there are uses there. I believe our city population is well over 10,000. I believe we have a population that have chosen not to be counted, or maybe don't understand how census works. It can be a little confusing. I will find out. The prison population, it's up to the Department of Finance from the state. Whenever they call, that's the number that they'll receive, and it fluctuates. We can have 3,700, you could have 45.
Yeah.
We've had as much as almost 8,000, I believe, at the prison. But I can, I will get the best numbers that I can get, but we receive funds based on what our population is. And I can redo Corcoran, and they have 2 prisons there.
Yeah, I think just the way I look at this report, it does look like we're okay. $223 per capita versus everybody else, but when you subtract the prison and from our population, we're at $325.73. So it's over $100 difference per capita.
Then we'd be close to Exeter.
Yeah, I don't know. It's I don't know what the other council members what their opinion might be on this, but I think we should stay a little bit more local, to what we have around.
I will get the prison population on whatever day I call and see what it is too. I know they've transported some inmates out for several different reasons, and they're dealing with that now because of COVID. Is there any particular city that you'd like to see?
But you said Kalinga might not be a good comparison, but this, I know like they have a high crime rate, so maybe we can just put it in there, but look at their crime rates, what they are, and what ours is here on Lemoore. I think Hanford is going a little bit out of range. But
yeah, or Lemoore. I'm not sure.
A little too big.
It would be. I'll have our chief get on the crime rates.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me write this down too. Okay. Okay, I wanted to share that with you. It's quite interesting. Okay, so.
Moving on to.
Yes, I believe we are going to our water and sewer funds, our enterprise funds. Now let me get back there. I would like to bring your attention to page 19 before we go any farther, that we have received a funding request from King's Commission on Aging, and I thought that's what you were talking about, Pablo, when you first brought up the $5,000. They have requested funds for this year. It's basically matching funds for any federal or state money that they might apply for. I just wanted to point that out. It's on page 19, and that was received this week. Apparently, RAP has reached out to Dawn. She just told me today. I wasn't aware that they had reached out. I don't believe we have, received a request, but theirs is basically by the MOU that we have in place. But to date, we had not heard from them as of our last study session that we had. And Linda K. Payne, apparently someone had reached out this week too regarding a funding request from the prison, from the Historical Society, which they have done in the past. But I wanted to point those out to you before we move on. So your water fund is going to be Fund 14. Let me get the page for you. Oh. Okay, so the water fund, it starts on page 70. And that is the summary. It's water treatment expenditures and distribution expenditures. Whoops, wait a minute. So on page 71, those are the projected funds for water revenue. We have interest income that's based on the funds that are in the general fund, and I believe there's some that are in LAIF. The connection fees, I believe that is a little low, but we won't know until there's actually any development that starts. That would be for new connections. And then the water revenues, basically those are the revenues that our community pays for use of water. And we think that 3.2 is a good number for revenue based on the amount of water that we use. We used last year, which would be the 2019 year, it was 2,400 acre feet of water, and we sold 700. That was a little hard to kind of calculate how that would work, but that was raw water that we actually sold. We didn't sell treated water. And there are two components to water. There's the fixed rate of water, which regardless of if we treat 100 acre feet or 500 acre feet, you're still going to have fixed rates. And then there's a per use unit of water that you pay additional. That's what makes up your water revenue. So, and this covers water treatment and water distribution. And that would be utilities and then public works. And we've already reviewed the expenditures. Are there any questions about water? No. Okay. What really took us back this year was when the state increased the operation maintenance, that additional amount, and we didn't anticipate an additional $90,000 we'd have to pay for water. Or excuse me, it's called the true cost of water, which that includes water and maintenance and infrastructure and all. So our wastewater fund, on the title pages on 77, 78. Again, this is for wastewater collection and for treatment. The actual revenue is on page 79. We don't always, we think of water, we understand water, but it's just as important for the treatment of wastewater. If we didn't have a good wastewater system in place, it could get us in a lot of trouble. So the Interest income, that is based on whatever funds that we have that we're receiving interest in our city checkbook. Connection fees, I believe that's probably low, but we won't know until any further development. And we do know that the subdivision has started, the grading has started, so there is actually activity, and we're not going to put it all in one basket, but that could play into our connection fees. And then our actual sewer revenues at 1.7 million. We think that is a good number for our wastewater. Any questions about wastewater?
Nope.
And we've reviewed expenditures. Our recycling fund is the title pages on page 82. The actual revenue, we have our summary page, but our actual revenue is on page 6 or 84. Recycling is pretty easy to calculate because you only have so many customers, but we've had growth. So that is actually built into the revenue itself. We have the interest, and then we have our actual recycling program, and those are the $4 that we pay for recycling. That's what funds this department. Any questions at all about? Again, this is one of the less difficult funds to calculate. Okay, the refuse fund, title page on 85. The actual revenue page will be on 87. This is by contract. I would like to say that this is by customer, but also understand there are the rent-a-bin programs, maybe go back for additional pickup. So there are miscellaneous revenues that are all part of the revenue received, or from the revenues received. It's based on whatever operations and then our contact that we have with the contractor itself. So it also shows the transfer in of the county's, the council's 20%.
I thought we corrected that to the 174.
Are we not transferring in on there? Or are we transferring in and then out so it zeroes out?
It's the other one that I changed, and I'm sorry, this is my mistake, is in general fund. There's a revenue and expenditure both in.
Okay, okay.
So
That's
this one should be 174 also, shouldn't it?
It's in council's budget and in general fund revenue. So this is
Right.
basically zeroed.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You caught me there.
And then the refuse revenues, it's just the revenues that we receive. We receive our franchise fee. But again, understand that it's not just the amount that we charge on the actual utility bill. There are extra, such as a rent-a-bin or go back and pick up, or it could be a number of whatever services that Mid-Valley Disposal actually provides, and then they let us know so it can be added appropriately and make sure that they're paid. Again, it's a contract we've had since 2000, actually. We were Mid-Valley Disposal's first municipal customer, and they've done a great job for us. And our street funds, we basically, I believe, went over this. The title page is 88, and the actual fund itself is on page 90. And that's for our LTF, and then for our highway users tax, those are the two revenue sources that keep our street fund or our streets going. We discussed LTF. that we receive whatever's left over after CART and after planning services and KCAG, whatever amount that they charge per year. So any type of sizable project, we have to save basically a few years. The one item that is not on here and we do not have the funds is that portion of the cutoff road that by the orchards that's not in very good condition. And we do have, there's a heavy load there every day, but our streets in town also need attention, and San Joaquin Street is basically falling apart at this point, and it needs to be reconstructed, so that's very well needed. But it does take us several years to be able to get enough money to actually do a meaningful reconstruction project. And that is, and then we get into grants and projects, and those revenues are, if we receive 500,000, then we want in a grant, then we'd want to utilize the 500,000 within whatever guidelines there are for that project fund. That is, have we missed anything, Dawn?
I'm sorry?
Have we missed anything other than the one item I need to gather the information on? No?
It's always great to have somebody else that hasn't been boggled with numbers for days on end to look at things and say, how come it looks like this?
I know we need
I
to
have
look
lots of notes.
Yeah, we just leave Dawn alone sometimes. So it's not as simple as inputting, then she has to put everything together. So I want to commend her for that. It's a long process. I know I'm giving a lot of explanation. I just want to make sure, and I'm only giving bits and pieces because there's so much more, but I wanted to provide additional information for Alex and also for Pablo to understand. It's your budget. It would be nice if we knew exactly what would happen, but just like a general plan, it's what you think is going to happen based on the numbers that you have seen in the past and what you can project for the future that is within reason. Okay.
So we move on to grants and projects. Or
the grants and projects, basically we have reviewed. It's whatever the funds are that you receive, then we account for them. They are almost every grant that we have, it requires that a special fund be established for that grant. So it can be accounted for expenditures and revenues. So it's not commingled with general fund or any other fund. So again, if we receive 500,000, we have to account for the 500,000. And if, let's say it's a state grant and within the guidelines, it says if you don't use it, you disencumber it and it comes back to us, then we have to do that. But anyway, we have to follow whatever the state or federal guidelines are.
And basically what it is if they say you are granted $4.5 million and we receive 500,000 the first year, whatever the difference is covered over to the next year, and so on until the entire grant is complete.
And that's kind of part of that carryover amount. I just have to get the specific projects. That's exactly what happens. And understand that grants, not all grants, but most grants are audited, and it may be 5 years down the road. We have our single audit that we do. Our streets, the LTF, there's an audit for streets. She looks forward to that each and every time. But your main funds, your general fund.
I do have an answer for you.
What?
I said, I was in contact with the auditors today, and because of the COVID-19, they're located in the city of Pasadena, and literally the police went door to door in all office buildings there, and if there was more than just a couple of people in the office, they were required to shut down and locks put on the doors. So, and then in the as they've been working outside of the office, they're all trying to get into the same server, and so it slows it down and it kicks them out, and it just makes things go that much slower. So they are working on it. They are meeting tomorrow. They've been allowed to have up to half their staff in the office at any one time. They're meeting tomorrow to go over the rest of their schedule. They were given an extension until August 31st from single audit to have their paperwork in, and we should hear something tomorrow
That being the paperwork into the state
for the single audit,
for the single audit.
for the federal and state reporting of the grants. So,
So just basically everything we have is audited at one point or another.
and they're very thorough.
Yes, yes, they are. But that is basically all we have to present, but I'll answer any questions that you might have
Questions, comments?
overall.
No? I guess.
I appreciate your
I'm numbered out.
attentiveness, and again, this is what we think is going to happen. Maybe there'll be some surprises, but there'll be good surprises this year. But I believe our budget is, it's very understandable. It's been improved over the years, so it's more readable and understandable, not only for our council and our staff, but if someone were to sit down and we explain, we'd be happy to show them. Between that and our reserves that we have our warrants, and we have our financial reports. We have to, and we do provide whatever's needed. Happy to.
So on 4, you have scheduled budget workshop number 3.
That is totally up to council. I added that as an item. I wasn't quite certain how far we would get. And since Councilmember Preciado's not here, I will extend my hand to him to see if he wants to meet with us specifically, and we can go over what we went over tonight, just to bring him up to date as what's going on.
Okay. So what else would we need to do?
There's really nothing else to do. Okay. I believe I still feel that there are some uncertainties out there as far as how we conclude this year, which, we're already at the 15th of June. We're doing okay. We're doing okay. We believe there'll be funds that will continue in period 13. That's important, and possibly even into 14, but then again, it plays into the next budget year. But what I believe would be a prudent way to go is, we don't know. There's some things we don't know. We can go ahead because the public hearing has been published, and we can certainly review the budget. But basically what I'm saying tonight is what I would be saying at the public hearing is, we have a budget in place, and by law, we are required to have a budget. It doesn't say it has to be this budget or that, but we have called them operating budgets, where we don't adopt basically our fiscal year budget, but we adopt an operating budget until our fiscal year budget is ready. And we've had, basically because of state and some issues in the past, they had budgeted issues, and we hesitated on adopting a budget until we knew what the state was going to do. And it's kind of how we are now, just a little bit different because of COVID. But then we can look at the budget again in the first part of September, which is still part of the first quarter, and review and say, you know what, this is what's happening. Maybe we need a little more time, but we do have that operating budget. It pays payroll, and it provides purchases of necessity, anything large, and it would have to be because we really need something outright, would be brought before the council to approve. So you would know what was going on. So that, based on what I know today, that is probably what I would say at the meeting on the 25th. But again, this is council's budget. It would be up to you. I'm just the message carrier at this point.
Well, is there questions or the need for another workshop? Or are we happy with what we have?
Yeah.
We're okay? Okay.
And probably approve an operating budget.
Yeah.
So we do it just so we can pay the bills. keep the
And
lights
for
on.
the past few years, we have provided, and I know it's been confusing to adopt a fiscal year budget, and then we would put operating budget and back in the event the council wasn't comfortable. So it's really no different than it would be in the past few years. And
It won't be any less work
yeah, it's not.
or any
really
more
isn't.
work.
So, okay. I'll update the report and ensure that everyone in council receives it, and Dawn and whomever.
So we're basically done then.
We are basically done for tonight. Just
Yeah.
thank you all very, very much.
All right.
Appreciate it. And happy birthday, Papa.
Thank you. Ya fue la fiesta.
Oh, Tony, thank you. I apologize. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You've done a great job. And I did ask for one side this time. I think you